All right. So hello, everyone, and welcome to another Tuesday Talk. I am here with Jaume, Aguilo Ramos. I'm pretty sure I butchered your name, but that's fine. So that was fine. Okay. So instead of doing a teacher or a staff member today, I actually have someone very special with us today. So many of you might know him. So he actually was a student in our intensive English program, and now he's one of our ELA Friends volunteer mentors. So first, James, why don't you tell us about what is ELA Friends?
Oh, well,
Kind of become
ELA
an expert
Friends,
on it.
I think it's a great initiative. And what they or we do is try and bring all the ESL students together so the international community at UWM can participate and create even their own activities and enjoy the life of the campus. And also some of our activities also take place outside of UWM's campus. So I'd
Mhm.
say it's a great thing that we do, just to keep all international students in contact with each other. So we all know how one feels when he or she is in a foreign country, even though many of our international students have high skills and their English skills and proficiency is insane. But even in those cases, we all can feel a little lonely, far
Yeah.
from home. So it kind of, we understand each other better in that way. And I think we've created a very nice community, and we help each other, we have fun with each other, and
Yeah.
we play games. We Before the whole coronavirus started, we were actually started a very nice activity on Wednesdays, if I'm not wrong. And every night we had 2 hours of bowling, and it was great. We were having so much fun, and then this happened. But
Yeah.
well, we can still keep the group alive through things like this. So I think it's a great idea, this interviews that you're doing, Lindsay.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I remember when I told you, I was like, hey, Jaume, and I call you Jaume because apparently I don't know how to say your name correctly. So you will be forever Jaume to me. Jaume also goes by James. He actually told me that it's still Jaime because the spelling of his name is the Catalan version. I was like, well, that makes sense, but I'm still going to call you Jaume. When I approached you and talked to you about this volunteer program, and you were so excited. And it's funny, when you first came to the IEP, me along with all the teachers were like, why are you here? And like, it wasn't a bad thing. It was just like, your English is so good. Like, no one would even know that you're from Spain. Like here and there, you say some words that are definitely
Yeah,
like
obviously, or some expressions, or yeah.
right, but it was just very funny. But I think that because of like the fact that you are an international student and an English learner yourself, that's really important for our students. So like two things here. We've talked personally about like your personal like journey through life, about how you and your wife have like traveled a lot and kind of how that's formed like how you've ended up here. So would you be willing to tell us a little bit about that, and especially how that informs you as a mentor in our programs?
Oh, wow. Okay, so long story short, my wife has been always very interested in Eastern cultures, especially Japanese culture and language. And when we met a couple of years after, actually, when after meeting her and starting dating, she applied for this scholarship for the Japanese government. It's a very rare scholarship. Uh, Actually, they give this scholarship to different students internationally, but the number of students that get approved or receive that money are based on the economic relationship that
Mhm.
the country has with Japan.
Okay.
So in the case of Spain, it's not great. and they only offer one every year. And
Wow.
she got it. It was amazing. So it was something that we couldn't pass on because it was a great opportunity for
Yeah.
her and, well, for me too, because I always wanted to go to Japan. So it was the perfect chance. And so we ended up living in Japan for a year. And then when we got back from Japan and we were back in Spain, I told her, well, I had this dream all my life. I wanted to improve my English level. I want to go to the United States and learn more.
Hmm.
And she was like, well, we just came from Japan. It's not crazy at all. Let's go to the US. So we saved money for a couple of years and here we are. And the amazing thing is that, as you mentioned, I came here with a clear idea of what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to improve my English skills, but I didn't exactly know how to do it.
Hmm.
I felt like starting a career here or studying for 4 years was way too much. So I wanted to do something shorter, and the ESL program offered everything that I wanted.
Yeah.
That's why I came to you guys. And but after taking the first tests, all the teachers were like suggesting, James, you should try and do something else. And then that's when I ended up finding that master's in TESOL and applied linguistics, which is the perfect fit for me because that's what I want to do. I want to go back to Japan and teach English. And well, we during those first 3 months in the ESL program, I don't know, we kind of created this little community with the students and the teachers and the staff, and everyone is so uh, cool and ready to help. And when you mentioned that I could be part of that, it was just the obvious choice. I mean, I had to do it.
Hmm.
Not only, I mean, there's a selfish part in this because I get a lot more than I give, actually.
Yes.
I get to practice my English all the time. I get to help. I get to build my CV. I mean, everything is good
Right.
for me. In
Yeah.
exchange, I get to also help the students, which is great. I mean, I'm making tons of friends. I before I came to the US, I didn't even know where Oman was. And now I have have a dozen friends from there, and
Yeah.
we talk to each other, and I care about them and they care about me, and I don't know, it's a great thing. I think it's again what I mentioned before is like that feeling of international community.
Hmm.
It happens, it just pops. And the same goes for other people from different countries, not just Oman. I mentioned that because they were like the most students were from Oman, but there are Chinese students with whom I have a great relationship. I don't know. It's just amazing. So I couldn't pass. I thought I wanted to be part of it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's one of the reasons why I reached out to you because, because you are in our programs, you are able to relate to the students in ways that I can't. I was your teacher, which is kind of funny. So like I know the teacher side of it, but I think it's really important for our students to have that perspective of like, oh, okay, like, wow, you were in the same program I was in. Like you are coming from um, being
Background, maybe, yeah.
exactly like even like adjusting to a new culture, which you've done multiple times. Didn't you tell me once you guys also lived in Chile?
Yes, for a year.
Yeah. Yeah. So even though Chile speaks your native language, it's still a different dialect. It's still
Oh
different.
yeah.
So, I thought that that was really important. And at that time, you were already helping out in some of our classes with tutoring some of our students. And yeah, so that's pretty great. So, like, what would you say you do as a mentor in our ELA Friends Volunteer Program?
Well, for one, I think the most important thing is to have energy, I'd say, because you have to dedicate a fair amount of time not only to be with the students, but to organize things. That's what eats up most of the time that you invest in this. Because, just go bowling with the students, it sounds fun. And people would actually send, when I posted something on Facebook, people would comment on it like, hey, are you even studying there? But they don't see the process until you get to go bowling. So yeah, bowling is fun. It's great. We're having tons of laughs and a great time. But what happens before that can be possible. We first have to contact the UREC and then exchange emails with them, negotiate how we're going to do this, and then talk to the students, see if they would like to do that. Because maybe I have a great idea, what I think is a great idea for me, and then the students think, well, I don't really dig on that, so I don't want to do that. I think we should do something else. So there goes your idea down the drain. And I think it's the whole process. It's fun to do, but it also is a little bit tiring because there's a whole lot of things that you need to do in order to be able to go bowling. That's the example we're going with. But I don't know. When you post it on Facebook, it's like, yeah, that's what we do. We go bowling or we play ping pong or
it feels like.
Yeah, you're having tons of fun, but are you actually doing something else? And there's a lot more to it that meets the eye because we also have the face-to-face group, for example, and Lally, who was leading this semester's group, she was investing an insane amount of time on it, designing the PowerPoints, thinking about the contents, what would benefit the most all of our students. It's not just those, I don't know, 60 minutes of class or of face-to-face thing that matter. It's the work before that. So I don't know. And I think the after that, what we do as mentors is just be in touch with the students and help them solve any problem that they have. It can be the tiniest thing as, oh, I don't know what to eat today, which doesn't happen often, but sometimes we're discussing, oh, I found this new restaurant, and we recommend things to each other. Or something, maybe someone got a parking ticket, and then how to solve that. How do we help them? Because it's a different country. Laws are different. Ways are different than their countries, and we need, we are kind of the link between this and that. And to me, as an international student, that I also am, it helps a lot because I get to see both worlds, how they interact, and I learn a lot about both of them, which is great. So I don't know. I think it's just a matter of being involved with the students.
Yeah, which you do a lot of, which is great. I think it's funny because, our teachers, of course, help them with things, but I think it's different when it comes from a fellow classmate or like someone who's also a student rather than like me or the teachers or some of our other staff members, so that's really great. So yes, you were an IEP student. What did you, and like you're also an international graduate student now. So what do you love the most about being an international graduate student in the US?
Well, for one, I get to be here, which is something that I wanted to do since I was a little kid. Here in the US. And there's a thing that I've noticed I do, and I never thought I would be able to do, which is sit in a classroom surrounded by native speakers and be able to follow what's going on. And not only follow, but also participate. I don't know, we kind of learn the language gradually, and you don't realize that from 0 to 80% of comprehension, there's a huge gap. But once you start from 80 up, you don't realize that you are following very complex trains of thought or very uh, specific vocabulary that just your field uses. Some of the students, for example, some girls from Oman that are in the math field, they tell me that they can solve all the problems because they know the stuff that
Mhm.
they're working on, but then when it comes to explaining it in English, that's when the problem happens because they don't have the vocabulary. But that just happens for maybe a couple of months. Then after that, they freely talk about everything they know
Yeah.
about math. And they were actually explaining some stuff to me, and I was like gawping, like, I don't understand what you're talking about. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's the vocabulary that you're building. And they hadn't they hadn't noticed that they were doing that
Hmm.
because you don't realize you are at a point in which you start building up your skills, but you don't actually realize because it happens so gradually that it's almost an invisible change. And I
Yeah.
think that's amazing. And that's one of the things that I really love about being here. I mean, I don't know, it's just amazing how the brain works, how it all, grows, your language skills grow, and you don't even realize that they are growing, and you're able to follow conversations that you never dreamt of following, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a great thing.
Yeah. I remember when I studied abroad in France for my master's for a year, and I took a linguistics class, um, but it was all in French. It was applied linguistics, and I just remember like I had a dictionary constantly open because I knew what he was talking about, but like the words were different, and I was like, I like cognitively understand what you're talking about, and but I don't know the word for it, so I'd always like go to my dictionary and I'd be like, oh, okay, and then I would write down my notes, and it was just really funny because at some point my professor caught on and he's like, are you good on this word? I was like, yeah, I'm good. um, but I definitely understand that, and it's actually funny because even though that class was like applied linguistics for teaching French as a foreign language, I used a lot of that for teaching English as, a second language. So it was really interesting to have that. And it was funny because he um, questioned me on my dialect one day because I said wheelbarrow instead of wheelbarrow, which is, I guess, like a Midwestern thing. It's actually wheelbarrow, but like the way we grew up, it's wheelbarrow. So anyways, yeah, it's really interesting to see that kind of growth linguistically, like when you're a student. So then what would you say is the most challenging? Would you say it's the same thing, or would you say it's something different?
Maybe that's something that I realized recently, but I would say that the most challenging thing is that inner fight that I constantly have between what I don't know and want to learn, and the feeling of being stupid for asking. I don't know if I make myself clear. So the thing is, when you learn something new, you're not a kid anymore, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't know. So you can either ask, and sometimes, because we all have that feeling sometimes, eventually, you feel stupid for not knowing.
Yeah.
But it's unavoidable. I mean, I have been practicing my Spanish for more than 30 years.
Right.
So my Spanish is pretty good. It's decent, right?
I'd say so.
But if I look at the with the same perspective, I look at my English. I just have been living in a native speaking setting or a country just for a year and a half now total.
Mm-hmm.
That that is what I don't know. It doesn't add up. I mean, I would really love to speak like a native speaker, never make a mistake, and be perfect and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
but you can't do that if you don't make those mistakes. So
Right.
it's kind of a paradox because you don't want to make mistakes, but in order to not make those mistakes, you need to make them first.
Yeah.
That's the way
Mm-hmm.
to learn. And I think that's the hardest part, is to be a child again, feel like a kid again, and feel clumsy and feel stupid, and it's okay. And you just have to take it as it is. You need to make mistakes, and you need to ask silly questions, and I don't know, just overcome those feelings, and be happy with yourself. You're doing something amazing. You're learning a new language. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I heard a sentence the other day, one of those beautiful sentences that are in Facebook or Twitter, and they said something like, "What is a foreign accent? It's an act of bravery." And I really loved the sentence. Is that,
Mhm.
yeah, that's what it means. You dared to do something different, something that is hard.
Yeah.
And that, I think that that is mentally, it's kind of the hardest part about being here and learning a new language and a new culture and everything.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely like that. I never looked at it that way, but yeah, like that being childlike when you learn. I really like that. Cool. So, because you are a UWM student, you are, of course, completing online classes during this time.
Yep.
So what is that like for you? Like, what do you find is like challenging, or is there something you enjoy particularly about it?
Uh, I wouldn't say I enjoy it particularly, because it so the thing is, uh, I don't know how it works with people who are studying their 4-year graduate studies or anything, but for the masters, we normally meet once a week for 3 or 4 hours
Mm-hmm.
nonstop. So whenever we when we switched to online, it kind of we can't meet obviously for 4 hours online because our schedules don't match. Everything is changed. A lot of people live all cramped up into a small apartment with all their family,
Mm-hmm.
which makes it impossible to connect. Uh, and this kind of translates into double the homework, double the readings,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a lot more work than just being there in a classroom with other people, which is also something that I miss. I mean, it's so nice to be surrounded by people. We are, at least I am, a social animal. And
Yeah.
I miss that. I miss just interacting with people that are not in the computer screen. You
Yeah.
know, and it's like, I don't know. I feel like hugging everybody now. I, I need human contact or a real conversation with a cup of coffee. I don't know. It's this is kind of draining my energy as days go by.
Mm, yeah.
And well, it is more difficult, but there's a silver lining to this, and it's that we can study at our own pace. So we do have due dates, like, okay, this has to be done by Friday, but you don't have to be in class from that time to that time.
Mm-hmm.
You can choose your own pace and say, okay, I'm going to work 1 hour on Monday, and then 2 hours on Tuesday, and then one more hour on Wednesday, and I haven't. I'm done with it. So that part, it's you need to rearrange all your schedule, but it's very nice that you can do that. Plus, we have tons of free time now.
Yeah,
So
that's true. Yeah, it's definitely, I think it's difficult for everyone, not just students, like even for us. We
yeah, how
have
how
to.
do you how do you teach an online class now? It seems
Well,
so
I'm
hard.
not teaching, but everyone's doing it through, you know,
Collaborate Ultra.
Yeah, Collaborate Ultra, but even then, it's difficult because not everyone's Wi-Fi works the same, or not everyone has the space to like study or the time. Maybe they have a roommate, or they have all these different barriers. And I think what we have to do with each other now more than ever is just have patience and really take it one step at a time. Even with me, like so much of my job kind of went out the window because I worked a lot with the Friends volunteer program and with you guys, with the conversation groups and everything like that. So even I have to like kind of refigure how I do things, because I'm like, what am I supposed to do? My main social media platform was sharing events with you guys and really like trying to get you involved. And now it's like, how do I do that when
Exactly.
everything's virtual? So I've managed to get some things going like this, but it's still a struggle to figure out like, how do we still keep students involved? Like, how do we still make sure that students have what they need and that they are able to have that connection, not just for their English practice, but also so that they don't feel overwhelmed or isolated, especially because international students, those who chose to stay here or like couldn't go home because of the borders closing or whatever, are so far away from their families like you are. And I can't even imagine what it would be like to have to be on lockdown in a foreign country.
Yeah, exactly. And most of the students don't have their families here because I have my wife, so it's kind of it's easier for me because
Yeah,
I have someone to talk to, and problems are half the problem because two people can take care of it. But for the students, and they are way younger than us, so some of
mhm.
the times I feel, or I wonder if they are really doing well, or are they feeling depressed because they can go out, overwhelmed by the situation. I don't know. So there's a lot of factors in there.
Yeah, for sure. So then I have two questions for you before I'm all done with you.
Good.
So, you know, this is a very difficult time for, all of us, but especially our international students. So first question is like, how are you maintaining your English practice during this time? Like, what have you found has helped a lot to try and keep you interacting and improving your language, even though things are not how they should be?
Yeah, that's something that we've discussed a lot with my wife because we feel like we are not practicing as much English as we should. We're basically, our conversations are narrowed down to when you have to pay at the cashier in a supermarket. And
Yeah.
that's not enough.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we have online classes, which is some of them we can meet online with the teacher, and that's a part of it. But we used to be immersed 24 hours a day. We even started talking in English uh, with each other,
Oh, wow.
and now it kind of as I mentioned before, our energy is lower, and we are not depressed, but the mood is not excellent. Just leave
Right.
it at that. And we practice a lot less. So what we are starting to do now that we feel this might uh, last a lot longer than it was predicted. Maybe we are trying now, for example, whenever we eat, we put the TV and watch a show just for that time, right? So we have some English input.
Right.
Or we do exercise at home with, instead of using a website or YouTube videos from someone who speaks Spanish, we use English speaking trainers
Nice.
to help. And you don't really have that interaction, but you at least you get that English input flowing in.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice. That's some, at least we can do something. but we really, really miss our lives, going outside and having just a normal conversation with people.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we can do something to some extent to keep practicing English, but it's not the same, obviously.
Right. Yeah. But that's, doing what you can. That's the best.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So last question then, because you have a perspective that like I don't, or even our teachers don't, what advice do you have for our international students during this time?
Okay. So I've been helping one of the ESL teachers with her class
Mm-hmm.
lately. And what I've noticed is that most of the students don't go out during the day because I don't know, maybe they are sad or a little depressed or they just don't know what to do. And just going out for a walk can clear your mind,
Mm-hmm.
give you some endorphins and keep you going. And that is something that I think we all should do. I know it's hard. I know the longer you stay home and don't go out, the harder it gets to actually do it and start moving. But I believe that is something very important to include in your daily activities is to go out,
Yeah.
feel the sun, just take a walk,
Mm-hmm.
go, I don't know, run, jog, do whatever you want, but do something outside. Even
Mm-hmm.
if it's just for 15 minutes, it will give you a different perspective, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah.
and, and we kind of, some of the students mentioned it a lot that they just watch TV or are binge watching TV shows or whatever, or
Mm-hmm.
playing video games, and that's okay, but that kind of drains all your energy from you. Do
Mm-hmm.
something with your body, move around,
Yeah.
exercise, go running. I know whatever it is that makes you that have has you moving. That'll keep you alive and your heart healthy and your body moving and breathing and sweating a little bit. That's
Yeah.
something that I think it's very positive. And the less you move, the more likely you are to feel depressed. So I think that's a good advice.
Yeah. Awesome. That is great advice. That's actually what a lot of our teachers have been saying. Um, you gotta get up, get moving, while maintaining social distancing. Of course, we are not encouraging you to
Of
be out in
course.
the crowd. Please do not do that. But definitely taking a walk, I have found that is super helpful.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jaume, or hi,
Thank you.
James. Some people call me Jamie too, I've noticed. Like Val calls you Jamie, but what
Hey.
man of many names.
I have,
Thank
I
you
have like
for
I have like 4 names now.
yeah, like 4 names. Well, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Great. Bye bye.
Bye bye.